Growing up in the 1970s was a kind of freedom that kids these days simply do not get. Children played outside until the streetlights came on, friendships were built face-to-face, and the biggest worry of the day was who got to ride shotgun. There were no smartphones, no constant noise. It was simply just life, happening in real time. For anyone who remembers it, the 70s were more than a decade of lava lamps and bell-bottom jeans. They were a feeling, and that is what made that childhood real. Parents in the 1970s had a kind of trust in their children that's rare today. Kids left the house after breakfast and didn't come back until dinner, roaming freely through neighborhoods, creeks, and empty lots. The world felt wide open, and every day was a new adventure waiting to happen. There were no GPS trackers or constant check-ins, just a shared understanding that you'd be home when the streetlights came on. Getting dirty, climbing trees, or coming home with a few scrapes was all part of growing up. Independence wasn't something earned over time. It was simply part of being a kid. Everyone knew where the fun was by the sound of laughter echoing somewhere down the block. There were no tablets or smartphones in sight, and that was exactly what made childhood in the 1970s so special. When boredom hit, kids didn't reach for screens. They reached for imagination. A stick could become a sword, a cardboard box could turn into a spaceship, and the backyard transformed into a world waiting to be explored. Saturday afternoons were for creating adventures, not scrolling through them. Friends would knock on your door after breakfast, ready to play until the streetlights came on. There were no apps or updates, just laughter, scraped knees, and endless creativity. The magic came from making your own fun and turning ordinary moments into unforgettable memories. Saturday mornings in the 1970s were something special. Kids would wake up before the sun, grab the biggest bowl of sugary cereal they could find, and settle in front of the TV for hours of pure cartoon bliss. Scooby-Doo, the Flintstones, and Super Friends filled living rooms with laughter and color, and for that one morning each week, the TV completely belonged to the kids. There was no streaming, no pausing, and no second chances. You either caught your favorite episode or waited until next week. Parents enjoyed the quiet, kids soaked in the fun, and the sound of cartoon theme songs mixed with the crunch of cereal became the soundtrack to perfect, carefree weekends. Your bike was more than transportation. It was pure freedom. It took you everywhere you wanted to go, to school, a friend's house, the park, or just around the block for no reason at all. Every ride felt like an adventure waiting to happen. Kids personalized their bikes with banana seats, handlebar tassels, and baseball cards clipped to the spokes so they rattled like engines. Helmets were rare, and a few scrapes were just proof you'd had a great day. You could disappear for hours, exploring side streets or racing down hills with friends laughing behind you. The wind in your face, the hum of the tires, and that endless sense of independence captured what childhood in the 70s was all about. Every 1970s neighborhood had a gang, not the kind you'd worry about, but a crew of kids who met outside every afternoon without needing to text or plan. You just showed up, and everyone knew that after homework or chores, the street belonged to you. Friendships were forged through kickball games, shared bikes, and endless summer evenings filled with laughter and scraped knees. There were no profiles, no followers, just real faces and real stories. You didn't unfriend someone. You argued, made up, and were back playing by sunset. The bonds were built on shared adventures, not status updates, and those friendships felt solid, like they'd last forever. Every kid remembers that one friend who lived just a few houses down, the one who always knocked and yelled, "You coming out?" Toys in the 1970s didn't need batteries, screens, or Wi-Fi, just imagination. Kids built entire worlds with Lincoln Logs, raced Matchbox cars across living room carpets, and spent hours twisting knobs on an Etch-a-Sketch to draw crooked masterpieces. Board games like Monopoly or The Game of Life brought families together around the dining table, where laughter and arguments mixed freely. You didn't scroll through options, you made your own fun. Even simple things, a yo-yo trick or a new Hot Wheels track, felt like major life achievements. And when something broke, kids fixed it with tape or a little creativity. Toys weren't about collecting, they were about playing, sharing, and seeing how far your imagination could take you. The 70s were a golden age for snacks, when sugar was just part of being a kid. Breakfast started with colorful cereals that turned milk neon and ended with homemade cookies cooling on the counter. Lunchboxes carried peanut butter sandwiches, not protein bars. After school, there were popsicles, Twinkies, or maybe a slice of bologna rolled up with cheese. Parents weren't obsessing over labels or macros. Food was meant to taste good, not meet a quota. Saturday mornings meant cartoons and a giant bowl of Fruit Loops, and no one felt guilty about it. Snack time was fun, carefree, and delicious. Sure, it was a little messy and a little sugary, but it was perfect. It wasn't about health trends or fads. It was about simple joy, one bite at a time. Watching TV wasn't a solo activity. It was a household event. Families gathered around one bulky set, flipping through just a handful of channels. You didn't binge watch. You waited all week for your favorite show. When it finally came on, everyone tuned in together, snacks in hand, ready for the opening theme song. Whether it was Happy Days, The Brady Bunch, or The $6 Million Man, television brought people together. Commercial breaks were for bathroom runs or quick snack refills, not endless scrolling. Kids learned what prime time really meant, and missing an episode actually mattered. There was something special about sharing laughter, gasps, and groans with everyone in the same room. TV was more than entertainment. It was family time. School in the 1970s felt different, lighter somehow. Sure, you had homework and pop quizzes, but the pressure wasn't crushing. Kids didn't worry about college applications in elementary school or spend hours glued to screens. You passed paper notes under desks instead of texting, hoping the teacher wouldn't catch you. There were no metal detectors, no digital grade trackers, and no viral trends to keep up with. Teachers wrote with chalk, students doodled in margins, and recess was sacred. You learned multiplication on worksheets that smelled faintly of ink, not on tablets. School wasn't about perfection. It was about participation, showing up, learning, and having fun with friends. And when the final bell rang, the day was truly over. You left school behind until tomorrow. Music wasn't just background noise, it was life's soundtrack. Vinyl records spun in living rooms, filling homes with Fleetwood Mac, the Bee Gees, or the Eagles. Every scratch and pop added character. Portable radios and cassette players brought music to porches, backyards, and long car rides. People didn't wear earbuds, they shared the sound, blasting tunes from open windows or neighborhood block parties. Kids learned every lyric and sang along, even off-key, without caring who heard. Music wasn't curated by algorithms. It was discovered by chance, one record at a time. The joy was in listening, rewinding, and playing it again. It connected generations, moods, and moments in a way that only 70s music could. For 70s kids, the outdoors was the ultimate playground. You didn't need fancy equipment or organized sports, just daylight and a little imagination. Days were spent riding bikes, climbing trees, building forts, or chasing each other through sprinklers. Family camping trips meant roasting marshmallows, not checking for Wi-Fi. Parents didn't hover. They trusted kids to explore and return by dinner. Summers stretched on forever, filled with the smell of grass and sun-warmed skin. The sound of cicadas meant evening was coming, and that was the cue to head home. Nature wasn't something you visited. It was part of everyday life. Getting dirty wasn't a problem. It was proof that you'd had a good day. Talking in the 1970s required effort, and that's what made it real. You called friends on a rotary phone and hoped no one else picked up the extension. Long-distance calls were a big deal, often cut short with, "Make it quick, it's expensive." Letters were handwritten, sealed, and mailed, a slow, thoughtful process that made receiving one special. And if you wanted to see someone, you simply showed up. There were no read receipts, no instant messages, and no way to hide behind screens. Every interaction carried weight because it took time. Conversations were longer, eye contact mattered, and goodbyes were real. Communication in the 70s wasn't convenient, but it was meaningful, and that's what made it memorable. Growing up in the 1970s meant understanding patience. Waiting wasn't a burden, it was normal. You waited for photos to develop, for your favorite song to play on the radio, or for the next episode to air. Instant gratification didn't exist, and that slow pace taught kids how to appreciate things when they finally arrived. There were fewer distractions, fewer deadlines, and far less noise. People lingered over dinner, took evening walks, and actually listened to each other. Even boredom had value. It pushed kids to get creative, to draw, read, or just think. Life wasn't about doing everything faster. It was about doing it fully. Simplicity wasn't a trend. It was a way of life. If this walk down memory lane made you smile, you'll love our next video on cool 80s things we all wanted. Click over and keep the nostalgia going. The memories only get better from here.